Okay, picture this. You borrow millions of dollars instantly. Then maybe you double it, pay back the loan, keep the profit. All of this happens in like under 10 seconds. No paperwork, no credit score check, zero collateral needed. Sounds a bit like a crime, right? Like some impossible heist movie plot.
Well,
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something truly wild in the crypto world. Flash loans. Yeah, it sounds completely impossible, I know, until you start wrapping your head around programmable money and this whole world of DeFi, decentralized finance. So our mission today, we're going to unpack exactly how these flash loans work, why they even exist in the first place, and we'll explore both sides, the really cool, innovative stuff, but also, well, the crazy exploitative side that makes DeFi feel both kind of magical and, honestly, a bit terrifying.
It really is a fascinating concept. Flash loans kind of flip the script on what we think about credit and risk. You know, in traditional finance, it's all built on trust, collateral, history, time. With flash loans, it's about instant provable solvency. It all happens algorithmically within one single transaction.
Okay, that's the key difference then, because when you first hear borrow millions with no collateral, I mean, your first thought is probably, how is that not just total chaos? So what's the actual mechanism? What makes this incredibly bold idea even possible?
Well, it's surprisingly neat, actually. So yes, a flash loan lets you borrow a huge amount of crypto, no collateral upfront. But here's the brilliant part, the catch, really. The loan plus any fees must be paid back, and not just soon, but within the very same transaction block.
The same block.
The exact same one. It's what they call an atomic transaction. Everything happens or nothing happens. So if for any reason maybe your strategy didn't work out, maybe something went wrong, if that repayment doesn't happen in that block, the whole thing just fails. It reverts.
Yeah, it never happened at all.
Exactly. Poof! As if the loan was never taken out, the trades never occurred. It's like a digital safety net, an instant undo if the conditions aren't met perfectly.
Wow. Okay, so that atomic nature, that all or nothing fail-safe, that's the core. That explains why there are no traditional requirements. No credit check, no forms, no collateral. It's not because it's insecure.
No, not at all.
It's because the smart contract itself is the enforcer. Repayment isn't based on trust. It's built into the code, which means, as our sources put it, you need a pretty brilliant or devious strategy just to make one work.
Precisely. It cuts out all that traditional financial baggage, right? All the intermediaries and paperwork. It's replaced by pure code logic. So getting the capital is, in a way, simpler, but
figuring out what to do with it profitably in just a few seconds, that's where the real complexity lies.
exactly. That's the challenge.
So, okay, if you absolutely have to pay it back almost instantly within that same block, what are they actually good for? I mean, who's using these and how are they actually driving real innovation? Is it just a gimmick?
Oh, definitely not just a gimmick. This is where some really clever uses pop up. The classic example, the most common one, is arbitrage. Imagine you notice a tiny price difference for, say, Ethereum on two different decentralized exchanges, DXs.
Okay, like Uniswap and SushiSwap or something.
Yeah, exactly. Places where people trade directly. So you spot that tiny difference. Maybe ETH is a fraction cheaper on one than the other. With a flash loan, you could borrow a massive amount of ETH, instantly sell it on the exchange where it's slightly higher priced, buy it back on the first exchange at the lower price, and then, crucially, repay the loan plus the small fee, all within that single transaction.
Ah, I see. And you pocket the difference.
You pocket the difference. And because you borrowed millions, even a tiny price difference can mean significant profit. You need that huge capital up front to make it worthwhile, and you need it now before the price corrects. Flash loans provide that.
That makes total sense. Capturing those fleeting little market inefficiencies requires instant, massive capital. Speed is everything. Are there other legitimate uses besides that kind of arbitrage?
Yeah, absolutely. Our sources point to a few others. For example, you could use a flash loan to quickly refinance or restructure your existing DeFi loans. Maybe move collateral around without having to sell assets or pay hefty fees in multiple steps. Or sometimes they're used to provide temporary liquidity boosts to certain protocols, maybe help facilitate a really large trade that might otherwise fail because there aren't enough funds sitting there at that exact moment. So yeah, definitely some constructive and beneficial uses for this instant capital.
Right. So far, it sounds like a pretty amazing, efficient tool for, optimizing things in DeFi, making markets work better, maybe. But this is where it gets complicated, isn't it? Where, as some sources say, the system gets wild because that same power, that instant access to huge sums can be turned around and used maliciously, right? Can you walk us through how people exploit these things? Because you hear these stories, millions drained in seconds.
Yeah, this is the darker side, definitely. And it often highlights vulnerabilities in newer, maybe less audited DeFi protocols. What attackers do is use the massive capital from a flash loan as leverage, almost like a crowbar, to exploit weaknesses in a smart contract's logic.
How, though? What does that look like?
Well, they might borrow a huge sum of, say, stablecoins. Then they use that to manipulate the price of another asset on a specific decentralized exchange. Maybe they dump it all at once to crash the price artificially or buy it all up to inflate it. Then they quickly interact with another protocol, maybe a lending platform, that uses that manipulated price feed from the first exchange. Because the price feed is now wrong, they might trick the second protocol into letting them borrow way more than they should be able to, or maybe buy up assets at a steep discount, effectively draining value from the system.
And then they pay back the flash loan in the same transaction.
Exactly. They complete your exploit, take the profits, repay the original flash loan plus the fee, all atomically. The protocols that were exploited are left holding the bag.
And again, the speed is just mind-blowing. Sources say these happen within seconds. It's not like a bank robbery that takes hours or days. What really gets me, though, is this idea that these actions are often described as legally executed. How on earth can draining millions be legal? Is that accurate?
That's a super important point, and it really highlights the weird legal gray area DeFi operates in. When people say legal in this context, they usually don't mean a court approved it. They mean the attacker didn't technically break the rules of the blockchain itself. They didn't steal private keys. They didn't hack the core infrastructure. Instead, they used the existing rules of the vulnerable smart contract against itself. They found a loophole, an exploit in the logic of the code, and executed a sequence of valid transactions that resulted in a massive payout for them.
So it's like finding a flaw in the game rules and using it to win big, even if it feels unfair.
That's a good way to put it. Some people call it financial parkour. It's incredibly technical, very high risk, obviously high reward. But they're operating within the programmed environment. It's code executing against code. Now, is it ethical? That's a huge debate. Some see it as almost like a brutal form of public auditing. If your code is weak, it will be exploited. Finders keepers, almost.
Worthless.
Right. But others, understandably, see it as clear abuse. Exploiting immature systems, taking advantage of code flaws that harm users and protocols. It really depends on your perspective on how DeFi should work and evolve.
That tension, that duality. Genius versus abuse. It seems to capture so much about DeFi itself, doesn't it? So if we zoom out a bit, what do flash loans tell us about the whole decentralized finance ecosystem? What's the bigger picture here?
I think flash loans are a perfect symbol of what makes DeFi both, as you said, magical and terrifying. They represent the raw power of programmable money and composability, the ability to link different financial tools together like Lego blocks instantly. It's an environment where speed, math, and code truly dominate. Trust isn't placed in institutions or people, but in the logic of the smart contracts themselves.
But that trust in code assumes the code is perfect.
And that's the risk, right? If there's a flaw in that logic or an unexpected interaction between protocols, flash loans provide the capital to exploit that flaw at lightning speed and massive scale. So yeah, they force us to think really hard about security, about rigorous auditing, about the unforeseen consequences of building these complex financial machines.
It really is a Wild West, still being built, rules being written and rewritten, sometimes harshly, in real time. Okay, so just to recap then, flash loans give this incredible power, borrow huge sums, no collateral, but only if you repay instantly in the same block. This unlocks really cool innovations like super fast arbitrage and efficient loan management.
Right, the beneficial side.
But it also creates this vector for incredibly sophisticated exploits, manipulating markets and draining protocols within seconds, often operating in that weird, legally gray space of code is law. A real double-edged sword.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It really embodies the cutting edge, the potential, and also the very real risks of this new financial frontier.
So maybe the final thought for you, the listener, is this. The next time someone tries to tell you that DeFi, decentralized finance, is boring or just spreadsheets, remember these flash loans. Remember the stories of people pulling off these multi-million-dollar maneuvers, these sort of digital heists, sometimes without technically breaking any traditional laws. It really forces you to grapple with what happens when finance becomes pure code, blurring those lines between brilliance, gaming the system, and outright abuse. It's anything but boring.